This program is sponsored by New Aspect Coaching.
Welcome to Reigniting You, the show that explores a variety of topics and timely issues for making successful mid to late career transitions with a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment for the next phase of your career and life, regardless of your age. Now, here's your host, Lisa Downs.
Welcome to Reigniting You, where we talk all things career transition for those age 40 plus. I'm Lisa Downs, Seattle-based career and retirement transition coach. So good to be here with you today, and our producer, Eric. Hey, Eric, how are you today?
Hey, good afternoon, Lisa. Happy last week of July.
Yes.
Doing pretty good.
Good. Cruising right along, and always hard to believe how fast the time goes anymore. And it's already the fourth week of the month, so that means it's time for our best job, worst job, first job episode. I'll be sharing listener stories, a few career tips, and some career news headlines on today's show. And we'll get started with all of that right after this quick break. Hi, I'm Lisa Downs, career and retirement transition coach and host of Reigniting You on KKNW. I guide age 40-plus professionals to gain clarity, a renewed sense of purpose, and a career transition plan within 90 days so you can lead a fulfilling life regardless of your age. No longer does change have to mean riding off into the proverbial sunset. Let's talk about what your next phase of life can look like. Visit yournewaspect.com or call me at 425-216-3015. That's 425-216-3015. New Aspect Coaching. Fresh perspectives for your career.
Hi, I'm Coach Debbie from Story U Talk Radio, and I want to encourage you to write your book. Weekly, I offer topics about style and storytelling. I take your questions on our live show every Thursday at 4 o'clock, or you can subscribe to Story U, that's capital U, on any of your favorite platforms.
Self-help, healing, spirituality, and more on Alternative Talk, 1150.
Welcome back to Reigniting You, the show that focuses on all aspects of making mid to late career transitions. I'm Lisa Downs. A note that in case you missed it here on KKNW, that you can catch Voices of Experience with host Paul Casey this Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. on KIXI. Voices shines a light on people with experience in their fields of travel, public affairs, adventure, health, and fitness, with an emphasis on sustaining your own business. That's Voices of Experience this Sunday at 9 a.m. on AM 880 KIXI. So it's time now for a few recent career-related news stories you may have missed these last few weeks. It looks like young people are in good shape this summer when it comes to finding a job, with the economy reopening and a reluctance of some older workers to go back to jobs with low pay. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that more than 5.4 million U.S. teens had jobs in May, an uptick of 400,000 over May of 2019, and 1.5 million in May of 2020. The unemployment rate for teenagers fell to 9.6%. BLS says the last time teens hit a single-digit unemployment rate was back in 1956. This year is a big difference from last year, when the teenager unemployment rate peaked at 32.1%. And the number of people aged 16 to 24 not looking for work decreased by about 700,000 over May 2020. From a survey of 2,000 office workers out of Great Britain, a 5-hour workday may be much better from a productivity standpoint than the traditional 8-hour day, a relic of the industrial age. For that 8-hour day, a lot of time was spent doing other activities, including checking social media, reading news websites, socializing with coworkers, making hot drinks, and taking smoking breaks that decrease their productivity over that traditional 8-hour workday. Searching for a new job also made it into the top 10 list of non-productive work activities. The virtual work situation during the pandemic has also reignited calls to shorten the workday with the bleeding over of personal lives. In what's being dubbed the year of the pay raise, many workers have seen some of the fastest wage growth since the 1980s these last few months, as employers are desperate to get employees to come back. These pay increases are reflected in the June jobs report that showed the U.S. economy added 850,000 jobs last month, while unemployment rose just slightly to 5.9%. Average pay in the restaurant industry is now over $15 an hour for the first time ever. That said, many unemployed workers are still dealing with health and childcare issues, along with a desire to change careers, so aren't necessarily ready to come back yet. Americans who soothe themselves with food are now looking to lose weight they gained during the pandemic. Gym memberships are up, as well as subscriptions to weight loss programs. According to the American Psychology Association's annual stress survey, 42% of the U.S. population gained unwanted weight, averaging 29 pounds. Pandemic-fueled isolation and added anxiety translated into eating more and exercising less, piling on to an obesity rate in the U.S. of 4 in 10 people, reports the CDC. Binge watching and junk food advertising were also likely culprits that contributed to the weight gain situation. Lastly, if you're one of the roughly 44% of global employees considering a job change, this is a great time to ask for extra perks in your offer negotiation phase, with it being a job seeker's market. Things like location flexibility, more childcare support, extra vacation time, pet insurance, food delivery, office equipment, or even help with Netflix subscription costs are items to consider to negotiate that some employers are including now in their packages. Having clear milestones for goal achievement can also be a perk, with employers needing to get creative in some cases to lure employees. There's been no better time recently to go after what you want. So, Eric, some pretty intriguing stories today. What are your thoughts on this news?
Yeah, well, first let me say that I feel pretty good because we were averaging 29 pounds of pandemic weight gain.
Yeah.
And I think I only gained about 20.
Oh,
So,
well, there you go.
I got to look at the bright side of
Yeah.
that. I'm below average on the weight gain. So, fingers crossed that we can all kind of turn around on that.
That's right.
Also, I am with the idea of the shorter workday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good idea. When you've got maybe a little less time to get stuff done, you focus and get down to
Yeah.
it. And then you're able to use that other time in more productive ways, like maybe burning off some of those 29 extra pounds.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I mean, that might be kind of a shock for Americans to go down to 5 hours a day, but maybe a 7-hour workday would make a lot of sense, I think, for a lot of people.
Something like that. Or I know there's some organizations that are also supporting the compressed work week where it's you work 4 10s, so 4 days of 10 hours each, and basically have a 3-day weekend every week. But just to try to, kind of up those. I mean, I remember when my last regular job, I would get in at about 7:30 in the morning, and I know I spent that first hour just messing around.
Right.
I was like, go to get the coffee,
I was
check
going to say,
the news.
Yeah, there's from the movie Office Space, there's a great quote in that where Peter's like, yeah, basically I just stare at my desk for an hour when I get in, and I do that again after lunch, which,
Right.
if that's true, that is a 6-hour workday essentially for him. So
Socializing. Yeah. I had this great office mate, Bill, and he and I were fellow Midwesterners, and he would also get in early. And so we'd chit chat about like the latest Parks and Recreation episode, or he'd look up trivia stuff online and ask me trivia questions that, so I know that we're not the only ones. We can't be the only one.
There is something to be said for that, that bonding and that, that helps you when you're working on team projects for sure.
Right.
But some of that could be pared down, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. But it is good to see, the increase in the employment numbers. And I know with the teenager story, it was really interesting. A couple years ago, it was so different where older people were taking a lot of those summer jobs
Yeah.
away and kind of the more service oriented roles. And teenagers were really hurting to find even a
Mm.
summer job to help support them save money for school or whatever it was.
And get started in
And
the
get
work
started in the
world.
work world.
Yeah.
So it is kind of nice in a way to, to see that happening as well. Yeah, and it is interesting to see what kind of the acrobatics that some employers are going through too to
Mhm.
attract employees and to make sure that they're seen as an employer of choice and draw great talent. So giving a bit when it comes to, what are some other creative perks and benefits and reevaluating what are those benefits we provide and
Yeah.
is there something more we need to do to sweeten that deal to get
Yeah.
good talent.
And what we're seeing from smart companies, it seems like, is that it's not always all about money. Sometimes it's about flexibility. Sometimes it is about stuff like childcare. And,
Yeah.
sometimes it is, being able to work from home for a certain amount of the week. These perks are things that, people actually really like and look for when they're looking for employment.
Yeah, it's like so much of it these days is about, well, what else? What else can you do that
Right.
can help me have a good quality of life and have a bit more balance and take care of some of these other things that I may not be able to necessarily afford or have in place to really help with that and feel like we're living a whole life and it's not all about work and some of these other areas have become really critical. So that's a good sign and good news for sure. So thanks for that. And it's time for our next break already. So when we come back, I'll share some listener job stories with a few tips and preview what's coming up for next week.
Are you feeling challenged or frustrated without a plan for what's next in your career and life? Are you seeing writings on the wall for needing to make a mid to late career change and don't know how or what to do? Coach Lisa Downs of New Aspect Coaching can guide you to what's next, providing a fresh perspective and supporting you to create a clear and compelling vision for your future and a plan to move forward. Call Lisa at 425-216-3015. That's 425-216-3015. New Aspect Coaching, fresh perspectives for your career.
This is Rob Bass, and I want you to tune in to Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller, the show that brings joy from pain, sunshine where it rains. Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller. And that's coming from me, Mr. It Takes Two, Rob Bass. Tune in.
Do what Rob Bass says. Take a listen to Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller. That's me, Tuesdays from 3 to 4 on KKNW. To find out more information, check out my website, staceyconnects.com, or text DAMTT to 55678.
Hi, I'm Nathan Mum, host of Tech Time Radio with Nathan Mum on KKNW. Tech Time Radio's live show is Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. And you can always check us on the web at techtimeradio.com. Our segmented stylized radio gives you the breaking news before it hits mainstream media. Join myself and Mike Day as we'll make you laugh.
That's good. So,
Hooked on Phonics worked for you, didn't it?
It did, just a little bit.
And learning something new in technology. Join us Saturdays 4 to 6 p.m. and Thursdays from 6 to 7 a.m. The Technology Show for the everyday common person.
Have a career transition related question or want to share your best or worst job story? Call 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496. Just leave a voicemail and we'll answer your question or share your story on a future show. Stay tuned for more Reigniting You with Lisa Downs.
Welcome back to Reigniting You, the show that discusses timely issues and topics about career transition for Gen Xers and Boomers. I'm your host, Lisa Downs. A reminder that if you'd like to get in touch, head on over to my website, yournewaspect.com. There you can sign up for my free weekly career transition tips newsletter, as well as take my free career transition readiness quiz. And if you go to services and group programs, you can sign up for a free webinar on August 25th at 12 o'clock Pacific time where you can learn more about making Encore career transitions, as well as download my free e-guide about Encore career transitions as well. That's yournewaspect.com. Would love to hear from you. We're continuing our episode that's focused on listeners' best, worst, or first job and career stories, a regular feature of the show the fourth week of each month. I'm here with our producer, Eric. So, Eric, speaking of food earlier, when you want to eat or snack, what are some of your favorite foods to eat while binge watching, or if you're feeling stressed out, or, just kind of want to go for it?
All of them. Yeah, well, for binge watching, I think you can't beat popcorn.
Yep.
It's great, there's a reason why it's the number one seller at the movies and stuff, and also for calorie wise, it's not that bad. If you put too much butter on it, it might be a little bit calorie explosive,
right?
but if you keep that at a reasonable amount, it's a pretty healthy snack.
Too bad.
Sure,
you can do a lot worse than popcorn.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
for sure.
And I have.
Yeah. I think a biggie for me is chips and salsa.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So if you put that in front of me, I will chow down on that. And then I can, what's really highly addictive to me are chocolate covered pretzels.
Oh man.
So that mix of sweet and salty.
Yeah.
I could make myself sick if you put a big bag of those in front of me. It's so addictive. So that's always a fave.
Definitely. Or like the chocolate covered almonds or like peanuts and stuff.
Oh yeah. Anything that's got
good.
that sweet salty blend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Gotta be careful with that stuff.
You do. You have to be really careful.
Suddenly you're on the other side of the 29-pound
That's right.
curve,
I don't want that. It's like, oh, how did this happen? I wonder. Well, it's time now for some listener stories. Just a reminder that you can submit your best, worst, or first job story by emailing it to reignitingyou@gmail.com or leaving a recording of it for me over voicemail by calling 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496. I'll then share it live on the air at the end of August. So our first story is from Lindsay in Tacoma, and she shares that her worst job was when she was a customer service representative for a clothing company that only did catalog sales. She shares that this was back before websites were around, so it was pretty much mail order from their catalogs. She says that it took a toll on her mental health, both from having to field so many calls in a day, handling customer issues quickly, and then the not so great customers yelling at her when things didn't go well and they had a complaint. Well, thanks so much for sharing that story, Lindsay. I applaud you for recognizing this and getting yourself out of that situation if it was not a good one for you. More and more is coming out these days when it comes to the importance of our mental health. It's so important to feel good about not only the work that we're doing, but also how we're doing it in any type of workplace. If we are every day doing things or being in a role that causes us more stress and anxiety, then it seems worth it to us. Then that is a big clue that it's time to look for something else. And really measuring, is this worth it? Is this worth my mental and emotional health and how I'm feeling? Is it worth it to stay in this position or with this organization if it's something that is just causing so much stress and anxiety? That job is one that I know I could not do it. I would not be successful in it. I would dread it. So, it's one of those that is not a good fit for a lot of people. And so I really applaud you for doing it in the first place. And then also recognizing that, I need to take care of myself and my own mental health and do something different and get the heck out of here and figuring that out. So that's great. I mean, we're just seeing it just this past few days with the Olympics, with Simone Biles. We saw it with Naomi Osaka. So two of the, highest of high caliber athletes, and having to say, you know what? my health and my mental health is more important than this. It's it's something that I need to step back and take care of. It could potentially have a negative impact on other people around me, and I need to take a step back and do what I feel is best, just to take care of that. It's so critical. So thank you for sharing that. Next is a first job story from Chris in Kirkland, who shares that it was working as a stalker and bagger at a local grocery store in his hometown. And he says that while he didn't like having to jump in at the last minute and take a different shift if someone called out sick, he did like the organizational part of restocking the shelves and packing the bags properly. It was a way for him to have some semblance of order in his life at that time that he could control since his home life was chaotic. Thanks so much for sharing that, Chris. I completely relate to that. I love organizing things. I'm kind of a geek that way, so it's actually a stress reducer for me too to be able to organize stuff. I mean, I don't think I'm over the top with it. Hopefully not. But I do. Sometimes it's just that process of unpacking or packing things or organizing a messy closet or, cabinets in the kitchen, whatever it is. So I do relate to that. And I'm so glad that you had that outlet as well. Doing those types of methodical activities can be a great way to deal with stress and just to let your mind go a bit, especially something that, if you really have it down pat, very comfortable doing it, it can be just a great way to take your mind off of other things and also use that as a stress reliever. And our best job story comes today from Tara in Bellingham, who says it was when she was an EMT. She shares that she had to quit because of a leg injury, though she really enjoyed the adrenaline rush of going out on calls and helping people when they were at their most vulnerable. She says she decided to switch to working in a medical office, so fewer emergencies, though she still gets to help people, and that makes her happy. That's so great, Tara. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad you found something to take its place, even though it may not be as exciting some days. But, great to hear that you found something else that still fulfills you, makes you happy, as a good outlet for you to still help people and to get them through perhaps some difficult, health situations and times of stress. And probably a good thing, I'm guessing, that I'm assuming a much less tougher toll on you physically than being an EMT. And I admire people who go into that line of work. Any first responder, the training that you have to go through, and I'm sure some pretty grueling situations. So, but so glad that you're still able to find fulfillment in the role and one that's a good fit for you, where you're still acting on that helper side of your personality and side of yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. So Eric, what jumps out at you from our stories today, from the listeners?
Yeah, all great stories. My first job was as a stalker as well. At Kinney Shoes. I don't know if you remember them.
I remember Kinney Shoes.
Yeah. I was a stock boy and would work once a week and spend like 8-9 hours, I think, doing that. I didn't quite get the thrill of organizing things that you possibly did, but it was a good place to start. I felt, for sure. And so I totally feel for Chris. I've heard stories of folks that work ordering, working for companies that do mail order and online stuff, and just like the customers that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
It's, I'm sure the vast majority of those experiences and interactions are great.
They're probably fine.
Yeah, probably fine. But there are some real jerks that call, places, and I don't envy them having to deal with that, because they're usually not highly paid, and they have to, they're the face of the company in a way, having to deal with all these crazy people.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough.
It's tough. Yeah. I almost went into, I like it so much that I very nearly thought about when I decided to go out on my own and start my business. I almost thought about, oh, do I want to become one of those personal organizers?
Oh, yeah. I could see
Because I
that.
really, enjoy that stuff,
Mhm.
and I like to keep things not, uh, where they're sterile or, I'm not a neat freak, but
Mhm.
I like to keep things in relative order or let things get messy and then kind of put it back in order and that type of thing. But then I thought more about, well, do I really want to go into people's homes and would that be weird? And yeah, so it kind of changed my mind and stuck with what I know best, and that's the people development stuff. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do totally get that.
That must have been tough, for folks in the organizing business, during
So, yeah,
COVID.
during COVID.
Yeah.
So, how do you do that necessarily online? And
Hazmat suit, I
I
guess. I
know
don't
a
know.
couple of them actually changed their business
Yeah.
focus because of that. So, yeah, that's tough. Tough gig, sometimes. So, well, thanks everybody for that. Thanks, Eric. And thank you, Lindsay, Chris, and Tara, for sharing your stories for our listeners about your prior jobs. Remember that if you'd like to submit your best, worst, or first job story or have a career transition question, you can send it to reignitingyou@gmail.com or call 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496. You don't have to use your real first name. It's fine to use a pseudonym, but name and location would be great. And it's time for today's reignition recommendation, your weekly career transition tip, and that's to answer the question, how will what you do next enable your growth as a person, however you define what that growth means to you? Regardless of our age, we can all continue to grow as people and have goals that give us a sense of purpose. So just because you may be looking to exit a career or slow down, it doesn't mean that having goals still isn't important. Just a reminder that if you'd like to get in touch, you can head on over to yournewaspect.com. There you can download my free career transition readiness quiz, as well as sign up for my weekly career tips newsletter. And if you go to services and group programs, you can also check out my free upcoming webinar that will be on August 25th, as well as download my free e-guide that's all about making encore career transitions. So thanks, Eric, for your participation and support today. Hope you enjoyed the stories of the news and from our listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah, always great. Please keep those stories and career transition questions coming, everybody. And join us next Wednesday at 3 o'clock when my guest will be author, consultant, and host of the Mid Career GPS podcast, John Nerrill, who will help me answer our career transition question of the month for August. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week on Reigniting You.